Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
May I present to you the cat?
I am the dog. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everybody, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I'm your host tonight, Caleb, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And no Wes this time. We traded places. So he's not here, and I'm here instead. Which is maybe not great news, because I think Wes was paying much more attention to the gaming stuff than I was.
Yeah.
I've been on vacation for a good chunk of the past week, so...
and you definitely know, if you listen to more than one episode of this podcast, you know I didn't pay attention to it.
That is very true.
I actually did in Slack. I gave a summary of what happened in all the gaming stuff. I said, people announced games. Some will probably be fun. Some will probably not be fun. And they will all be expensive.
That's a reasonably good summary
There's
of
your
everything
gaming
that's
news.
happened over the past 2 weeks in gaming. Genuinely, it's a depressingly solid summary. So there you have it, listener. That's it for the podcast this week. You can find us on... No, I'm just kidding. We have more to talk about than that, even if that is a reasonably good summary. We're going to give you more detail, whether you asked for it or not. But we're going to start not with gaming. We're going to save that for a little bit later on. We got some Android and some general tech news to cover real quick first. So we're going to start with an Android feature drop.
Yes.
Landon, take it away.
Yes. And now, normally this would be a Pixel feature drop, but Google decided to spread the love a little bit and give it to just Android in general. And that's also a good thing. You know, I don't hate the Pixel feature drops. You know, it's giving different reasons to buy a Pixel, but this is just giving reasons to buy an Android phone now, I guess. All good things, you know. There's not a lot here, but there are good quality of life type things. The biggest one is the ability to edit your messages in Google Messages after they've already been sent, which is a feature that has been available on iOS for was that just last year they did that?
Last year.
Yeah,
that was
and it is handy. I have used that before because I'll send a message, I'll notice, oh, that was the wrong word or spelled incorrectly, and I'll just quickly go in and retype it.
Yep.
Awfully convenient. They are doing it in a very similar way that Apple did it, where you have 15 minutes to make any necessary changes. After that point, then you can't edit it anymore, and it also shows the edited. Like, it'll tell the person that you sent it to that it has been edited. I don't know for a fact if the person that it is sent to will be able to see what the previous message was, because I know on iOS you can do that.
Yeah, you can.
I would imagine that you can, but I haven't
Probably.
seen that anywhere. The next one is this. I mean, this isn't necessarily something that a lot of people are going to use, but it's a nice feature. You'll be able to more easily share your hotspot on your phone or Chromebook or whatever you're using. And it also says that you will be able to switch between devices for video calls, which that's kind of cool. So if you start on a phone and you want to switch over to an Android tablet, you can just pop over onto the other device in the middle of a video call.
Well, I mean, that's very Apple-esque of them. So.
Yeah, it is really cool. Can you do that on... You can do that.
You can do it with FaceTime.
Yeah, with
FaceTime.
FaceTime.
If you're using FaceTime.
Yeah, very neat. And I forgot. This is actually the biggest update. Is there are more new combinations of emoji that you can combine inside of what they call the emoji kitchen. So if you wanted to combine, different ones that you couldn't beforehand, maybe it's now an option. So that's the biggest update to this, is that.
Oh, yeah, just let me slide down here to the worst tech name of the year nominees, and right below Genmoji, I'm going to add in Emoji Kitchen.
Oh, that's not a new
Is
one,
this
though.
a new feature?
No.
This isn't new, is it?
No, Emoji Kitchen has been around for a couple years.
Oh, I hate the people that name things in tech. Marketing departments. I hate marketing departments.
You know, I want to get a job I don't need any other marketing stuff. I just want to do naming. That's all I want to do. And I could come up with much better names, and as long as I get paid enough to survive, I'm happy with that. Come on, Google, Apple, anybody, hire me. Come on.
Gosh, I mean, at this point, it just feels like they're just asking ChatGPT. It's all like, here, give me a name for a hypothetical piece of software that lets you combine two emojis into a new emoji. And they'll just be like, it'll just spit out a list. And Emoji Kitchen sounds like one of the things that would be on that list. Though, to be fair, in this situation, it's probably because ChatGPT just lifted that directly from some article about Android that mentions the Emoji Kitchen.
Yeah.
And it won't credit it. It won't say, this is already a feature in Android. It's called Emoji Kitchen. It'll just say, hey, you should call it Emoji Kitchen. This is definitely an original idea I just had.
I just came up with this myself.
it's like the guy, oh man, this is a total side tangent, but I was having a conversation with a friend many, many years ago who, I write science fiction. This guy wanted to think that he wrote science fiction, but I didn't really discover that until afterward, because at the time I had not seen Firefly. I knew very little about Firefly. I knew that it existed, and that's about it. Because, listener, if you know anything about the history of Firefly, it was just airing, and Fox did not do anything to help that show succeed.
No.
So I didn't see it. I had no idea what it was about or anything. But this kid had seen it. And as we're talking, and I was all like, hey, I kind of feel like, I want to write a story that is like this. And I described something, and he's like, oh, yeah, and you could add this, or maybe this, or add this. And all of his suggestions were stuff like, yeah, and have a crew on a ship, like small ship, right? Just maybe 7 people in the crew. And, maybe the ship is like kind of like it's rough, it's kind of maybe always breaking down sort of thing. Like that could be kind of a fun element in there. And, oh, hey, there's like a whole race of mutated humans that are like, they're just crazy and they just attack and kill ships and stuff like that. And all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, yeah, this is all kind of fun stuff. And then I, later watched Firefly, and I was like, are you kidding? Like, this dude just literally spat the entire setting of Firefly to me like it was an original idea. And, his name wasn't ChatGPT, but it may as well have been. Anyways, complete side tangent, but that's the kind of thing that I would expect to get from ChatGPT.
Does that person now work for OpenAI?
He might, man. He might. I gotta see if I can find his LinkedIn.
Anyways, back to some more new Android features.
Yes.
You now have the ability to add a new Google Home widget, but this one's specifically for it's called a favorites widget. So it's basically just limited to specific devices that you list as your favorite devices. So if you have certain devices that you want quicker access to on a more regular basis, say like a light or your thermostat or something like that around your house, you can now have a widget with just those devices to be able to quickly turn them on or off or check certain things. Kind of cool. Kind of surprised that wasn't in there before, but it's there now. And that is the latest Android feature drop. Some new, nice new features, I think.
Yeah.
Nothing major, but just quality of life things.
I mean, hey, more ingredients in the Emoji Kitchen is never a bad thing. I hate that so much, that sentence I just said. Okay,
now here's a question for you, though. Would you rather have it be called Emoji Kitchen, as it is, or, narrow it down to Emoji Blender?
I would prefer Emoji Blender, actually, because the image that it presents is much more evocative.
that is fair.
Like
Uh,
the icon for that app just designs itself. It would be awesome. You'd have to have the poop emoji in the Blender. I feel like that's a requirement. Anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about the Google Maps timeline.
all right. So, listener, if you use Google Maps, which, I mean, you probably do, even if you're on an iPhone, because let's be honest,
I don't.
Well, Caleb he's a
I'm weird,
anomaly.
I know, but I don't.
Yeah. Most people are probably using Google Maps. If you're not using Google Maps, you probably are using Waze, which is basically Google Maps, just a little different. I mean, they're owned by Google. Or you are, for some strange reason, the one person on iOS, or the few people on iOS that do use Apple Maps. I will give you credit. It is better than it used to be.
Oh, so much better.
So much better.
Like, to be clear, I would not have used it 10 years ago.
No.
Like, not at all.
But anyways, Google Maps, if you turned this on, did have the ability to save your timeline. Basically, it would, as different places you would go, it would keep track of where you had been. Now, if you use that feature, all of that data that it is collecting is going to be stored on device, which, thank goodness.
Instead of on a server.
Yes.
So that Google could feed that directly to the government and they could track all of your movement everywhere.
Yeah.
Just in case you ever thought you were not being tracked by the government. Just
I mean, they don't need Google Maps data to track you, They have.
That's very true.
I would actually trust Google more with that data than I would the places that the government's actually getting it from, like, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, those places. Because
that's true.
They definitely don't care about your data or your privacy anything.
Well, I mean, for crying out loud, they've been letting you send SMS messages this whole time. And they're just like, yeah, sure. Go ahead and put your social security and your debit card PIN number and everything in an unprotected text message. That's fine.
It's fine. But no. So, yeah, all this data that is there. And by the way, and I do believe by default, it does delete every, is it like 3 months? Like, you can set it to delete it certain times. I think by default, it's like 3 or 6 months, something like that. You can have it so it just saves it if you wanted to forever, or you can have it delete, certain time frames. But now, like I said, it is going to be stored on device, at least initially. Now, I don't know how long that is a thing or how much data you can store on device that way.
I mean, I'd imagine it's just a series of coordinates. It's basically text. So it can't take up much space.
Yeah.
Honestly. And as long as it's stored exclusively on device, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If it's the kind of thing where Google's like, hey, we're now storing this on device. And we're also still storing it in the cloud because, we were doing that anyways. Now it's just also on device. So if you get pulled over in a location where you don't have good cell coverage, you don't have data, you can still use your timeline to show the cop that, no, that was not you that turned off of that road back there or did that thing because you just barely turned from a different road onto this road and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Which, listener, in case you were wondering, is probably the only good reason to actually let Google track your timeline on Google Maps. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, all right. That's it. There's nothing else to add on that.
No.
Which is fair. There's not a ton to say. Okay, we'll move on. The Magic Editor is apparently now available on more phones.
Yep. Including iPhone.
Oh.
Now, I have not been able to use it, like find it inside the app where it should be yet. I do have the updated version of the app that it should be on. Some people have found it on iPhone and on Android, but I haven't seen it yet. It's probably just one of those server side switches that they have to do, and they just do it periodically. If they did it all at once, it would probably cause issues. So they tend to slow roll this out. But
yeah, where is it supposed to be? Is it like under the edit
Yes.
Like in the tools. Okay.
Yeah,
so
you
what do
go
I
to the
have
edit,
here?
and then on the left-hand side, right above the little cancel button, where if you're editing something, there should be a little mark, like a circle type thing, that basically with their little AI star thing, I believe is what it is. And I haven't seen it yet, but people have been seeing it on non-Pixel phones. Now there is a little bit of a catch here. So on Pixel phones, you can get unlimited saves with the Magic Editor on your device. On non-Pixel phones, you get 10 saves a month using Magic Editor if you're not a Google One subscriber. So if you also are a Google One subscriber, which I am, so another reason why this should just be there for me, but it's not. I do believe you can get unlimited saves that way. But if you aren't, you get 10 per month, which I honestly think is probably perfectly fine. I don't know how
for
often.
most people, yeah.
Maybe the first month you'll go through those 10 really quickly just because you're playing with it and doing different things.
Yeah.
But after that, 10 should be more than enough for the majority of people.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't think I have it. I've got, like, I found the Magic Eraser, but
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
So, well, okay. Hopefully that starts showing up soon. You'll have to let us know how well it works once it does show up for you.
Yep.
All right. Is that it for our Android news?
That is all of the Google/Android news for the last, while. They're been kind of slow on the Android side of things, other than the fact that like AI is getting toned down a little bit on the Google side because it just isn't good.
Because everyone hated it.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Okay. Well, let's move on to a little bit of general tech news. And honestly, listener, I don't have a ton of detail on this beyond what this headline says. But this headline is amazing. The U.S. government sues Adobe for hidden termination fees when canceling subscriptions. Feels good. Like antitrust organizations actually doing what they're supposed to.
It's rare, but when it happens, it's great.
It is rare. So, listener, in case you weren't aware, Adobe charges a subscription fee for all of their stuff now. You were probably aware of that if you even know who Adobe is.
Yeah.
So, this isn't new. This isn't news. But what they have been doing for quite some time is that if you want the best price, and in fact, if you want the price that they advertise on their website as the subscription, which is $60 a month, you can't actually do that on a month-to-month subscription. What you have to do is sign up for a year, sign a contract for a year's subscription that is paid out monthly, right? Which means that if you pay for, 3 months and they're all like, man, I'm just really not getting my money's worth out of this, I'm going to cancel, you can't. You're locked in. This is the same kind of crap that cable companies pull, and nobody liked it when cable companies did it. I don't know how people have let Adobe get away with this for so long. And yeah, if you wanted a true month-to-month subscription, it was $90 a month, not $60. And basically the U.S. government is the lawsuit or the filing, the claim, I guess it's called a claim. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But what has been filed is essentially stating that the way Adobe advertises their yearly subscription fee is not clear enough about the fact that this is a yearly subscription, like a yearly contract. And if you sign up for this one, the cheap one, the one that we advertise, then you're not going to be able to cancel. And if you want to be able to cancel, you have to sign up for the more expensive one. And here's how much that costs. Like, they don't really advertise it. It's confusing how they have it on the website, how the people pay for it and stuff like that. And then on top of that, if you do want to cancel, it's unnecessarily difficult to do so. And basically they're just like, this is anti-consumer behavior out the wazoo. And so that's what the lawsuit is about. That it's just been filed. That's all we know. This happened literally like 3 hours ago. So who knows what's going to come of it from here. But if you've been with us for a while, listener, you're well aware that I do not like Adobe. So I'm happy to see them getting sued. That's great.
Yeah.
This is a good use of my tax dollars. Thank you, government.
I agree. You know, I used to use Adobe on a very regular basis. I used Photoshop quite a bit. I've used Premiere Pro. I've used Audition. I've used Illustrator. I've done a lot of stuff with Adobe over the years. And once they switched over to the subscription thing, I still used it for a while because it's just what I had to, either for work or for, different things.
Yeah.
And I just got sick of it. And then I think it was you introduced me to Affinity software. I'm like, oh, I'll look into that. And by the way, that is great software for
it is pretty great.
Really inexpensive. Like I even believe right now, well, it may not still be going on, but recently they had a 50% off sale where you could get the entire suite for like $60 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's just a buy it once and you're good. And they give you updates too. Like it's great.
Yes. And just recently, the makers of Affinity, Serif, were bought by Canva.
Yes.
And people have been a little bit like, oh, what does that mean? And Canva has come out and said that it means nothing for Affinity V2, which is the current version of Affinity that is out that you can go buy. Those are one-time licenses. You pay for it once. You get all of the Affinity V2 updates and everything going forward. They're like, we're not changing the terms of that license that you bought. And honestly, for people who have already purchased it, they can't change those terms.
Yeah.
Like they could, I suppose, try and force new terms in an update to the software. But if the software is working for you now, just never update and you're good, right? Like and so even worst case scenario, as a current owner of Affinity V2, I'm like, yeah, no, this is fine. I can live with this forever if I need to. But they've said for the entire time Affinity V2 is around, it's going to be on this pricing structure. Nothing is going to change. They didn't make any promises about the next version, like the next major release of Affinity products, and I would not be surprised to see that turn into a subscription with a one-time payment option that is more expensive.
Right.
Might still be worth it in that case. And Canva does bring a lot of money to the table that Affinity can, like that Serif can use to make Affinity better. So like could be good, could be bad, hard to say. But as of right now, if you can get the current Affinity software, you can just sit on that for years if it works for you and never worry about it. So that one gets a hard recommend for me over Adobe, unless you're using Windows, in which case I'm sorry, because it is currently Mac OS only or iPad. You can get it on iPad as well.
Yes.
Good times. Okay, that's enough about Adobe. Let's talk about Motorola.
Yay, Motorola! They're still a thing, kind of.
They are somehow. I get cheap phones. That's why they're still a thing.
Well, yeah, mostly that. I mean, yes, that is the thing that makes Motorola some money is all their cheap phones that they are extremely popular apparently in Brazil, which is interesting.
Huh.
Anyways, this is not about Motorola's cheap phones. This is about one of their flagship phones. Well, two, I guess I should say. Motorola has announced that they are going to be announcing new Razr phones on June 25th. And the tagline for this is "Flip the Script" on June 25th.
Yeah.
Also, there's a little preview that they put on Twitter and on YouTube, and it basically says intelligence inside and out.
Oh, dear.
So, AI is going to be a thing, apparently, which it's basically just going to be whatever Google said because it's running Android. And that they're not good. Lenovo is not going to put that much effort into putting their own intelligence into anything, let alone a Motorola branded device.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And if they did, I would run far, far away from it because
just don't use Motorola branded AI.
No.
Oh my gosh. like, not only is that going to be doing stupid stuff, like that guy with Firefly, like I was saying earlier, that's going to be like actively selling your information to Russian hackers. Like,
Yeah.
just don't. It's okay. Doesn't mean the phones are going to be bad.
Right.
Hopefully you can turn off the AI features if they are those AI features. But yeah, no, this is fun because, like, for me, man, the Razr lineup is like the cool punk kid to Samsung's boring dude in a suit, you know, as far as the folding phones go.
Apparently, I can't remember where I heard this, but there's new data out there that actually says that the Razr flip phones are the most popular in that form factor over Samsung's flip.
Cool.
Which, in my real life experience when it comes to seeing these phones in the wild, I know somebody that has a Samsung flip phone, and I know two different people that have Razr flip phones.
Oh, interesting. It's the price.
It's partially
100% the price, I swear.
I mean, that is fair because even the rate, like the higher end Razr flip phone, is still cheaper than Samsung's regular flip. So, and in my opinion, I like the Razr one better. It's got a bigger outside screen, more usable outside screen, and I just don't like Samsung's UI in general, so I don't want that on the inside either.
Yeah.
The only benefit Samsung really has is their camera technology, and cameras in general are just better.
Cameras are way better, and they do tend to ship with better processors as well.
Yeah.
Though I guess last year was the more expensive Razr.
I think it had the highest end Qualcomm chip.
I can't remember.
It might have been a year old Qualcomm chip.
It might have been. In the past, it's tended to be either they're using a low-powered Qualcomm chip or a year-old flagship Qualcomm chip.
Yeah.
Which is, like, fine in general, but not amazing.
Yeah. My biggest reason against going for Motorola is the updates. Samsung is way better when it comes to software updates and security updates. Yep. So for that reason, I would still probably get the Samsung, but I like the Motorola better, just in general.
Yeah.
But I am excited about these. And of course, like I said, June 25th, of course, it happens to be a Tuesday. So we will not be talking about it next week because we record on Mondays usually. So we'll talk about it later.
Yep. That'll be how it goes. Good times. Okay. Now, this is a statement right here. Our next topic, listener. New Jabra earbuds. Also, no new Jabra earbuds. Care to explain, Landon?
So this past week, Jabra announced two new earbuds, the Elite 8 Active and the Elite 10 earbuds, which the Elite 10 ones are like their higher quality, premium earbuds. The Elite 8 Actives, it's a second generation of that model. It's more of as the name implies, an active exercise model type earbud.
Right.
But they also, shortly after this, said that they are going to be leaving the market of headphones and earbuds. So they announced two new nice earbuds. Jabra is one of the more popular earbuds to buy. Like I've always heard great that I bought a pair initially before I bought my AirPods Pro. I bought them. They sound great. They functioned really well. The one thing I didn't like about them was it was a physical button that I had to press and it would push it further into my ear, and I didn't love that. So that was the only reason I didn't keep them and went to the AirPods. But other than that, they're great. And like the reviews on all of their products have always been really, really good. But they've decided to stop making earbuds, I guess.
Okay. So are they just going out of business? What else does Jabra even do?
I mean, their parent company is GN, and I don't know. It's GN
Gamers
Audio.
Nexus? No, okay.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's not Gamers Nexus, to be clear.
It's GN Audio, and So I don't know exactly what. Obviously, they probably have other brands or different stuff, but
Yeah.
the Jabra brand is going to be going away. They did say that they are still going to. They said they promise to provide support and service to existing customers for quote unquote several years. So I mean, if you like Jabra stuff and you've been wanting to upgrade, I probably would say don't buy these new ones unless you are just so much into the Jabra thing. I don't know, but if you have them, you don't need to get rid of them right now and try to find something else, because like they said, they will still support them for several years supposedly.
Yeah, but if you're in the market for an upgrade, now might be a good time to jump ship.
Yes. I wouldn't upgrade to these newest ones that they just announced, but
yeah, which is freaking what a great way to ensure that these do not sell.
Yeah, it's like it's one thing if you're going to make them and then like 6 months down the road announce that you're not going to do anymore. That's one thing.
Right.
But literally like same day, same week at least, it's like that was great. Just not smart. Well, so I don't know. I mean, part of the reason is they were saying it's like it's just hard to basically keep growing, I guess, because, and to be fair, there are a lot of people that if you have an iPhone, you're going to be buying AirPods most likely. If you have a Pixel, you're going to be buying Pixel Buds. If you have a Samsung, you're going to be buying Samsung earbuds. If you're just the average person that doesn't do any research even for me, I did a lot of research. And that's why I did go with the Jabras initially. But for the reason I already pointed out, that's why I switched over to the AirPods. But, I mean, it was usually the people that tended to care about sound quality that would get they cared about sound quality but didn't want to spend $500 on some Sony earbuds. They'd buy Jabras because they had really good sound quality for a little bit lesser, like they were close to that $250, $350 range depending on what you were getting, as opposed to the Bose or the Sonys or whatnot that are $450 to $500 earbuds or headphones. But it's just weird. I don't fully get it.
The timing on the announcement is what's baffling to me. It's like, okay, so we're just not selling any units of these new earbuds we announced is essentially what we've decided.
Pretty much.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good times. Well, good job, Jabra. That is one of the most confusing things I think to happen this year. You know what? I'm wondering if we could nominate them for something here. Worst platform of the year? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we could throw them in there.
Jabra.
Or potentially even the biggest surprise of the year,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It'll be a nominee for something at least,
It feels noteworthy enough for that.
Yeah.
All right. Listener, we're going to move on now to gaming. Now, a lot has happened in the world of gaming over the past couple of weeks because technically this should be E3. But E3 doesn't exist anymore. Nobody's calling it E3 now. So what we have instead are it's collectively sort of being called the Summer Games Fest, even though the Summer Games Fest refers specifically to an event put on by What's-His-Face that does the Game Awards, and that's a specific event, and there's a lot of stuff that was announced that was not associated directly with the Summer Games Fest, but instead came out of the PlayStation State of Play or the Xbox Game Showcase. There's a bunch going on. I am not going to break out everything that they talked about in all of those things, right? Because that's too much, and I don't care. I don't think you care to know all of those little details. Here's the noteworthy stuff that came out of the Summer Games Fest, State of Play, or the Xbox Showcase, okay? All three of them mashed in together. First off, Dragon Age. If you're familiar with the Dragon Age franchise, or if you're familiar with BioWare as a developer at all, this is kind of meaningful. So, BioWare, noted, legendary developer of Western RPGs that in particular is quite famous for making characters like party characters that you interact with throughout the game romanceable, right? You can sleep with just about anybody in your party if you want to in the course of playing the game. So that's kind of their whole spiel. Dragon Age is one of their properties that, alongside Mass Effect, is probably kind of like one of the most noteworthy, most successful Western RPG franchises out there, right? You've got Mass Effect, you've got Fallout, you've got Elder Scrolls, you've got, I guess The Witcher falls into the Western RPG category. There's a few big players, and Dragon Age is one of them, okay? We have a name and gameplay trailer for the new Dragon Age game, which is called the Veilguard. All right? They have made a lot of promises. If you want to see what the gameplay looks like and how it's different from Inquisition, you can go watch the trailer. What's notable about this is the first entry in the Dragon Age franchise since Dragon Age Inquisition, and is, similar to Mass Effect Andromeda, sort of carrying everyone's hopes and fears about the state of BioWare as a developer under EA's continuing ownership. The Veilguard trailer looks great, but it's a heavily curated trailer and doesn't actually tell us anything of substance. So it's out there. You can look at it. You can start getting hype. Might I caution a little bit of caution in your enthusiasm for this game, just because, man, we were all pretty hype when they're all like, we're making a new Mass Effect. And everyone's like, woohoo, Mass Effect Andromeda. And then we got it, and it was a steaming pile. Just so bad that they had to cancel the DLCs because nobody wanted to play the game.
Yeah.
And then the next thing...
Trailers can always be very misleading.
The trailers can be misleading, and holy crap, did they fail to execute on making a Mass Effect game. It just did not follow through. And then the next thing we got out of BioWare was Anthem, which, wow, that was, hey, we're going to make a live service copy of Destiny, except we want it to be a BioWare game. And that was the brief from EA, and poor BioWare is just BioWare game is literally the opposite of live service game. These two things cannot coexist. What are you doing? They're oil and water. You haven't given us an emulsifier. What the heck are we supposed to do with this crap? Turns out, make a crappy game that nobody plays, and it gets shut down really fast. Anyways, no idea what's going to happen with Dragon Age the Veilguard, but past experience over the past few years with BioWare does not necessarily stoke a whole bunch of confidence. Okay, let's move on. If you are a fan of horror games, listener, then if you're a fan of horror in general, I suppose, you're aware of Blumhouse. Blumhouse. It's pronounced Blumhouse, I'm pretty sure. They have actually announced that they're going to be publishing a series of indie horror games, just kind of as a way to expand into horror video games. And frankly, some of them, look, I don't like horror games. That's not my thing. It's not my cup of tea. But the trailers that they showed off were wacky and weird and different, and honestly looked way better than any of the kind of more rote traditional horror games that we've been getting over the past little while. So yeah, something to keep an eye on if you're a big fan of horror. If you are a big fan of horror, you're probably aware that the game director of Silent Hill has his own studio and has been making his own game. They teased it a few years ago. It's called Splitterhead, which is a really wild name. Evidently, the game is going to, we got to see some gameplay of it at the Summer Games Fest. Splitterhead looks like it's going to be less like survival horror and more like kind of an action-y sort of body horror type thing. So again, still kind of in that horror vein, but not Silent Hill. More Doom, I guess. It's sort of maybe less Silent Hill, more like Resident Evil 4. You know, kind of in that vein. A little bit more actiony along those lines. Okay. Oh man. So Xbox, Activision talked about, you know, how excited they are about the new Codblops. It's called Codblops 6. There you go. I mean, Call of Duty Black Ops, I suppose, is what it's actually called. Not Codblops, but I've been calling it Codblops for so many years because I refuse to give it the time of day. But there you go. They announced it. It's coming. Nobody's surprised. Doom. Also coming out of Xbox. They have announced that the next Doom game, which I feel like this is actually a really kind of clever direction to go with this, because, you know, the past 2 Doom games have been really like just trying to build on this, like the ethos, the mythos of the Doom Slayer and like the wild insanity that is the Doom universe. And so they're kind of just riffing on building on the insanity of it. It's called Doom the Dark Ages, and it's medieval. Like, they're just throwing the Doom Slayer basically into the exact same scenario. Like, hey, bunch of demons invading from hell, you have to kill them all. But instead of being like in a futuristic kind of sci-fi environment with a whole bunch of guns, he's in the Dark Ages with a whole bunch of swords and shields and stuff like that. So combat appears to...
Is this Diablo?
No. Because it's first person, and that's probably the main reason it's not Diablo. But I'd imagine that the gameplay is going to be a lot more fast-paced than Diablo is, generally speaking, as well. But no, so yeah, you have swords, you have... In fact, they showed off a shield in the gameplay trailer that you could use as a chainsaw, which is cool. Let's just get that out there, sword, chain, or shield chainsaw. So yeah, that's the next Doom game. Wild, but I'm intrigued. Arkham Shadow. If you're a fan of the old Arkham Batman games, listener, then this is just going to be perfect for you, so long as you've got a Meta Quest 3. It's a VR game, which does kind of narrow the potential audience a little bit. But I hear the Quest 3 is good, so
You know, I have played some of the older Arkham games, which, saying the fact that those are older Arkham games makes me feel old.
Oh man,
yeah.
When did the first one come out? It was like, it's been like 14 years or something that.
That's sad. But knowing what I know of those games, that type of a game on VR, I think would be a really cool game.
The gameplay that they showed off did look pretty nifty. And I'm not going to say that this is like the wrong way to do this, because, I mean, this could very well be a thing where they looked at it and went, hey, you know, Arkham would actually work really well in VR, and this is an interesting project, and we want to do it. I do have a sneaking suspicion that this was Meta showing up at the studio's front door and going, please build us something that we can like get people hyped up about and sell headsets over.
Yeah.
It might work. It looks pretty good. And I mean, let's be honest, Valve sold a whole bunch of people VR headsets over Half-Life Alyx. So, because people were just that desperate for a Half-Life game. And that worked out great, actually. Half-Life Alyx was great. And I've never heard anybody who bought a headset just so they could play Half-Life Alyx say that they regretted buying that headset. So, take that for what it's worth.
Now, do you think this will be only, like, it won't ever come to, like, PlayStation VR? Do you think it'll just stay on Meta? Or do you think they'll eventually branch out to, like, PSVR or Valve, different things?
I can't remember if they said it was exclusive to Meta or if it was just being bankrolled by Meta. But in either case, I suspect that, You're probably going to see it on all VR platforms in a year or two.
Minus Apple Vision, of course.
Well, right, yeah, because that's not a VR platform.
No.
That's a spatial computing platform.
Yes.
It's completely different. Come on, haven't you seen Apple's marketing materials?
Yes, I have.
Would the marketing department ever mislead you?
Never.
Come on.
Never.
They're the most trustworthy people in the world. / sarcasm in case that wasn't clear, listener. All right. Let's move on. Perfect Dark. Not a whole lot of detail about this. Little bit of gameplay. Essentially, I'm putting this on here because Perfect Dark, the remake of Perfect Dark, is something that should happen, and hopefully is in fact going to actually happen, because they do keep releasing trailers. And they have announced, I think, like late or early 2025 as the release date for it. Like, they didn't give us an actual release date, but they're all like, it's coming, and here's a year. So, maybe it's close. Maybe it's close. We can hope. Same thing goes for Fable, though I believe that one they did say was end of 2024 for the release on that one. So, okay, cool. More general release. The games are still looking good when they show us trailers and that kind of thing. So, like, hey, please just release them, Xbox. And then Gears of War. So, the most recent Gears game, I did not play. The one before that, I did, and it was chunky. It to an extent that I'm not sure I'm going to play a whole bunch more Gears of War, and I'm sorry, Wes, but that's just, it is what it is. Basically, if the game doesn't have a jump button, if the first person game doesn't have a jump button, I have a real hard time with it. Anyhow, they have announced a new Gears game, and I think that they've been having a little bit of trouble with the series ever since they decided to move on past the original whatever war it was with the bug creature things, and they are jumping back in time to the beginning of the original war. So this game is actually set, 14 or 15 years prior to the events of the first Gears of War, where Marcus Phoenix is young, and it's called E-Day, or Emergence Day, which I guess was when the bug critters showed up the first time, and the whole initial war with the bugs started. So that's the next Gears of War game. If you like Gears of War, be excited, because, where else are you going to get ludicrously broad-shouldered dudes crouching behind waist-high walls? Like, I can't think of a single other game that does it like Gears. And then the last one I feel like is pretty noteworthy has too many colons in this title. It just does, okay? The original game was called Kingdom Come: Deliverance, which seems to suggest that the franchise is Kingdom Come, the game is Deliverance, right? That's how it feels. It's a Horizon Zero Dawn type situation, which, to be fair, when Horizon Zero Dawn came out, I was like, what kind of a name is that? It's word salad. But then later, when they announced Horizon Forbidden West, I was like, oh wait, Horizon is the franchise, Zero Dawn was the game, and Forbidden West is the game. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. So you want to make a sequel to Kingdom Come Deliverance? What are you going to call that? It's going to be called Kingdom Come, something else. Like Kingdom Come, I don't know, more medieval bad times or something. But no, the sequel to Kingdom Come Deliverance is called Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And I hate this so much. This is a terrible name. I dislike it. I really strongly dislike it. If you liked the first Kingdom Come Deliverance, you'll probably like the second one, but gosh dang it, it shouldn't be called that. I don't care who you are. All right. I did want to touch really quick on a couple of notable no-shows in all of these events. These are games that have been announced in previous years And some of them have not been like really talked about in any meaningful way for quite some time. Maybe top of the list for people are going to be most disappointed that nobody said anything about this is Hollow Knight Silksong. Hollow Knight is a fabulous, like highly respected, extremely loved Metroidvania platformer that people have been wanting a sequel to for a very long time. Years ago, the developers announced they were working on a sequel called Silksong, and it is just, it's in the wind. Like, nobody has any idea if we're ever actually going to see this game. And that's too bad, you know, for all you Hollow Knight fans. I'm sorry. Nobody said anything about it. The next one, Resident Evil. We had, wasn't last year, was it the year before? We got the remake of Resident Evil 4. And then, the year before that, we had Resident Evil 8 Village. And everyone's like, okay, so they're kind of on a cadence of when the Resi games are coming out. So we were expecting to hear something about Resident Evil 9 this year. Hasn't happened. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen later this year. But, you kind of expect middle of the year, all the summer game announcements. This is kind of when you want to hear about these new properties or the continuations to these popular properties. Nobody said anything about it. So that was missing. The next thing that fans have been rabid for a very long time is the Bloodborne PC port. Bloodborne is getting to be like 10 years old at this point, and the fact that we still haven't seen a port of it to anything other than the PlayStation is wild. Especially from FromSoft, because From Software tends to be quite broad with the platforms that they release their games on. They're cross-platform for everybody, and that's great. Now, Bloodborne was obviously developed as an exclusive for PlayStation, but PlayStation has released PC ports of quite a lot of exclusives that are newer than that, like God of War and Spider-Man and stuff like that. Those have all come. Horizon Zero Dawn. And they're working on ports for stuff like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok. They've already announced those, and still nothing about the Bloodborne PC port. So, at this point, I feel like they're just having a laugh at all of us, and it's never going to happen. And then the last one, the big one, this is Ubisoft property, and so I feel like maybe just give up anybody who is actually looking forward to this. Beyond Good and Evil 2. Now, the first Beyond Good and Evil game came out in the Dark Ages, and there was never supposed to be a sequel to it, let's be honest, but there was a strong cult following of the game and enough love for it that Ubisoft, like 5 years ago, was finally like, hey, we're making a sequel to Beyond Good and Evil 2, like actually this time, not just the rumors you've been hearing for 10 years. And, no, man, nobody was talking about it. Nobody said anything. There's no gameplay trailers. We still have no idea what type of game it's even going to be. It's not happening, listener. I hate to break it to you. Beyond Good and Evil 2 is dead. Now, that being said, I have been proven wrong on that point before, because last year, about this time, I would have told you that Skull and Bones was never happening, was never going to release. And then Ubisoft did release it, the first quadruple A game in the world. Turned out to be a giant pile of crap. So even if we do get a release of Beyond Good and Evil 2, rest assured, you're going to hate it. So that's all the gaming news that I'm going to cover. Obviously, there were a ton of other games, literally like 1.5 million indie games that people talked about. Honestly, we're kind of in a massive resurgence of awesome indie games right now, and I'm fully on board for that. It was overall a pretty good couple of weeks for game announcements, and there was something in there for everybody to look forward to. Me personally, I am looking forward to seeing what the heck happens with the new Dragon Age game. I am so curious. Like, is BioWare still alive in there? Like, inside the husk of what EA has sucked dry? Is there still the essence of BioWare in there? Can we get a BioWare Dragon Age? Or is this going to be an EA Dragon Age? Boy, hard to say. beyond that, I actually want to play Doom the Dark Ages. Which leads me quite nicely into my last piece of news, which is about how Doom modders are the best people on the internet. So a Doom modder has already added that, like, the chainsaw shield from Doom the Dark Ages into the original Doom.
Nice.
So it's like, yeah, I thought that the Dark Ages looked pretty cool. I can kind of already play it. So I ought to download that mod and give it a spin, because, like, honestly, that's amazing.
Spin. Give it a spin.
Hey, give it a spin. No, I love that. This is why Doom modders rule the internet, and yeah, I will not say anything bad about them. So there you go. Little bit of Doom news to cap it all off. Great summer games experience. If we missed anything that Wes wanted to talk about, I'm sure he'll bring it up next week. But unless Landon has one more thing?
No.
Okay. Then, listener, I believe we are done with this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you listening, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Good job. You get a gold star. There you go. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can do that on our social medias. You can find us on Twitter, not X, to be clear. I don't know how that's going to work out if you go looking for us. Good luck. You can also find us on Facebook. You can also check out our website at callingallplatforms.com. You can find us on YouTube as well, Calling All Platforms Tech and Calling All Platforms Gaming. The new videos might go up someday. We'll see. And otherwise, you can find us right back here on the podcast app of your choice next week. Until then, bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.